Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanacha, Yamuna Tira Vanacha, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Muridhara, Radha Muridhara Shri Radhe. Jai Gaura Chandra, Jai Gaura Chandra, Jai Gaura Chandra, Jai Gaura Chandra. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, welcome everyone. Hare Krishna. We are reading today from, wait, let me share the screen. Yeah. Yes, here we are. These are the verses for today. We are reading from verses 29 to 34 from chapter 45 of the 10th canto. So we'll just quickly go through the verses and the translation and purport. This is verse number 29. Tatascha labdha samskaro vichatam prapya subrato gargadyadu kulacharya gayatram vratam astito. Translation and purport by disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. After attaining the twice-born status through initiation, the lords, sincere in their vows, took the further vow of celibacy from Garga Muni, the spiritual master of the Yadus. Purport: both Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explained the term Gayatram Vratam as the vow of brahmacharya, or celibacy in student life. Krishna and Balram were playing the part of perfect students on the path of self-realization. Of course, in the modern degraded age, student life has become a wild, animalistic affair filled with illicit sex and drugs. Verses 30 and 31. Prabhavo sarva vidyanam sarvajñao jagadishwarao nanya siddhamalam jnanam guhyamano narehitai atho gurukule vasam ichchantau upajagmatu Kashyam Sandeepanim Nama Heyavanti Puravasinam. Concealing their innately perfect knowledge by their human-like activities, those two omniscient lords of the universe, themselves the origin of all branches of knowledge, next desired to reside at the school of a spiritual master. Thus they approached Sandipani Muni, a native of Kashi, living in the city of Avanti. 32. Yathopasadya Tau danto guru vrittam aninditam grahyantam upetau sma bhaktya devam ivadritau. Sandipani thought very highly of these two self-controlled disciples, whom he had obtained so fortuitously. By serving him as devoutedly as one would serve the Supreme Lord himself, they showed others an irreproachable example of how to worship the spiritual master. Verse 33. Tayodvijavarastushta shuddha bhavanrita vibhi provacha vedam akhilan sangopanishado guru. That best of the Brahmins, the spiritual master Sandipani, was satisfied with their submissive behavior, and thus he taught them the entire Vedas, together with their 6 corollaries and the Upanishads. The last verse for today, verse number 34. Sarahasyam dhanurvedam dharmanyaya pathamshtatha tatha chanvikshitim vidyam rajanitim cha sadvidham. He also taught them the Dhanurveda with its most confidential secrets, the standard books of law, the methods of logical reasoning and philosophical debate, and the 6-fold science of politics. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that the confidential portion of the Dhanurveda, the military science, includes knowledge of the appropriate mantras and presiding deities of warfare. Dharman refers to the Manu Samhita and other standard law books, Dharma Shastras. Nyay Pathan refers to the doctrine of Karma Mimamsa and other such theories. Anvikshikim is knowledge of the techniques of logical argument, Tark. The 6-fold political science is quite pragmatic and includes Sandhi, that is making peace, Vigraha, war, Yan, marching, Asan, sitting tight, Vedha, dividing one's forces, and Samshay, seeking the protection of a more powerful ruler. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupescha Kripa Sindhubhaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine. So, thank you everyone for joining today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. I seek the blessings of everyone present for this class in the temple hall online, especially Adipurush Prabhu, Arjuna Prabhu, all the other senior devotees out over there, especially because today's verses are definitely, I think I've mentioned this in many classes before, all the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam are extremely important, extremely instructive, but the verses that we are discussing, particularly in this chapter, are something which are very core to our spiritual life. Because especially the verses today, they encompass 3 important aspects that every person needs to understand. That is, what what a student should be like, what is the knowledge that the student should receive, and most importantly, um, the teacher and how to approach the teacher. Um, for every for whatever education we need, material or spiritual, uh, these three are very important: the student, the knowledge, and the teacher. And these verses, they explain quite well the levels that one has to go through, starting off on a more external level and then going in more internal as it takes you. So in this verse, in verse 29, we see that Krishna Balram are following the Brahmacharya Vrat. And Jiva Goswami mentions in his commentaries to this verse that Garga Muni instructed them on this Brahmacharya vow, their family priest. And it's mentioned in the commentary that there are different levels of brahmacharya that a person can a student is supposed to follow. That there is a Gayatri Vrat, which means um, it's just 3 days of study. So it's 3 days of brahmacharya, which is the main days of the ceremony that goes on. But then we have more longer periods of brahmacharya, like the Prajapatya brahmacharya vow, which is for 1 year, and then there is the brahmachari vrat, which is for till the time the student finishes their education. Uh, but Sridhar Swami says that in this case, the Gayatri Vrat means that they observe the Brahmacharya Vrat, and this is a very important for a person in their student stage of life, when they're learning, because the main focus at this time is studying and assimilating knowledge, and so much of the life force, the pran, the luster within oneself is destroyed when nowadays the school and college going children, they engage in illicit relations and drugs at this time of their life, as Prabhupada mentions. So much of their time and energy, basically, which could be used in enhancing themselves and enhancing their knowledge, is lost at this stage. Um, because this is a very impressionable stage of life, when so much when there's so much of peer pressure, of wanting to fit in the student life, fitting with the culture, fitting with your peers, uh being there, being cool, so to say it, that unfortunately these kind of pressures nowadays um kind of like push a student away from what they should actually be spending their time and energy on. uh and celibacy is not just a purification on a more physical or an external level, but it's more also on an internal level. Celibacy actually means to be detached from material temptations and the desire to possess more. And this training, that this brahmachari training that a person gets in their initial stages of their life, when they're studying, it is supposed to be followed even in the later stages, even in the later ashrams of their life, uh, even in the grahastha ashram. It has to be followed in the sense that we don't fall into temptations again and again, of wanting to have just more and more money, just being behind money, just being behind, physically having relations with your spouse. And it just shouldn't be about me, my family, my wife, money, bank balance, house, and everything. No, it is this brahmacharya vow is to be followed in the sense of controlling yourself so that we can focus on higher goals in life, even in the grihastha ashram, even in the Vanprastha ashram, definitely in the sannyas ashram also, in the earlier, in the Vedic times when this was all strictly followed, but it's important even now. So it's so important that the student in this stage in life is given the proper training, the proper guidance, and they have ideal role models to be followed at this stage, so that uh, they themselves feel naturally inspired to do this. It shouldn't be something that is forced upon them. It's something that they willingly take up, that yes, they realize the importance of it. Um, and no doubt it takes an entire village to raise a child. And a child always looks, for role models around them. And the primary ones are the teachers and the parents, neighbors, everyone around them. So this important stage of their life has to be really taken care of and nurtured properly. And then the second thing that is important in these verses that we learn is, what are they doing this for? What is the student actually doing this for? They're doing this for knowledge that is meant to help them. So there is like some basic education that each individual should possess, every human being, let me just speak about human beings should possess, like reading, calculating, writing. Um, but most importantly, it is the life skills that we need to learn. Unfortunately, in schools and colleges nowadays, the knowledge that is given is so disconnected from what an individual actually needs to lead their daily lives in a proper manner. Like, I can clearly say from my own example that for the longest time, I did not even know how to fill in a paying slip to deposit a check. And I only learned how to do this when I was like 18 years old, when I went to college, when I was 18. It was so late, and this is like such a basic thing, how to deposit a check, know how a banking system works, know the basic a bit rule of, a bit of things about money, how to buy things, how to speak with other people. I didn't even know how to speak actually with other people. I was like so introvert for a major part of my childhood. It took me, I think it was only largely when I came in connection with devotees that I actually became a bit more open, and I actually learned proper speaking skills. It not even when I was working did I learn it so well. It was only when I started speaking with other people, started speaking with people of different backgrounds. When I was exposed to this, that I came to know about this. And unfortunately, all these skills are not taught in schools and colleges. And that's why you find people who are nowadays sometimes, unfortunately, a bit socially awkward. Like, a basic skill like this is not taught. Um, so Gurukuls in the earlier days used to teach all these different skills and knowledge, and they would divide students based on their qualifications and also on their interest. Like, for example, we see in this case, in these verses, that Krishna and Balram were taught military science and politics because they're going to be future leaders. So they need to know how to fight. They need to know how about political science. They need to know the Dharma Shastras that was also taught to them, because an ideal king has to rule the kingdom based on the Dharma Shastras. And this is what's lacking now. Most people, they just taught knowledge which is not which is not as per their interest, which is not as per their qualification, which is not as per their knowledge assimilating capacity, which is maybe beyond them, or something that they just don't want to get into. And that is why they end up learning something that they don't want to. They end up taking jobs which are not meant for them, and that is why they're so frustrated, they're so depressed. um yeah, and this is like a major part of your life. It's like a good 20, 30, maybe in some cases even 40, 50 years of your life you're going to be working, especially because nowadays people refuse to retire at the right age and leave. This is also not taught in, by the way, in schools and colleges, when it's the right time to leave everything and concentrate on your spiritual side of your life. So so that's why they're so frustrated for the longest time of their life. And whenever there's a break that comes, the weekend break, people just run away from their jobs. They just want an escape. They just want an escape from the dreary life that they have unfortunately chosen for themselves, because they didn't know anything else better, unfortunately. um and this is just, I'm talking about like material knowledge. And spiritual knowledge, people are not even so desirous of gaining spiritual knowledge, and they need to approach a guru for that. So this is the sad state of affairs when it comes to what a student is supposed to be like, and what knowledge is supposed to be like, but what it isn't nowadays. And the next, and maybe I think it's maybe a game changer in this case, is whom do we learn from? The teacher. Because a teacher can literally make or mar things in our life. So much of uh, who we are, so many, like, I love history personally, because I was fortunate to have excellent history teachers in my school. And because of them, I gained a huge respect for history and geography in general, social sciences. And that's why they are, till date, my favorite subjects. So this is what a teacher can do. They can either make you like a subject, or they can make you hate a subject. And, and it's not just what they teach, it's also who they are. Noble, ideal, because a teacher isn't a teacher just in the classroom. but even outside the classroom, because that's the place where most of the students pick up on their teachers from. Yad yad achariti shreshtas. Yes, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. So, yeah, a teacher is supposed to be such that um, you really need to look up to them. That's how you're supposed to be like. And you're a teacher. Once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher, whether you like it or not. So in these verses, we see that, um, you know, Krishna Balram, they don't need any education. They are Bhagwan. They're full of knowledge. They are the ones who have actually given this knowledge. Uh, they are basically the ocean of knowledge. I remember when I was just preparing a bit for the class, it was something very nice that was mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in the Krishna book on the same chapter, in which he mentions that the water is evaporated from the ocean and it goes in the atmosphere and forms clouds. And then the clouds come down in the form of rain. So the ocean is the source. So the source of all knowledge is actually Krishna. And the guru or the teacher is like this rain cloud who is taking this knowledge from this whole ocean and he is pouring down on a jiva, on a soul. I'm talking now more in terms of on terms of more the spiritual knowledge that we gain from our teachers, that the guru is like the samsara davana lidaloka. It's mentioned Guru Vashtakam that the guru is like giving us the fire when we are caught in this uh, this burning material existence. And what would we be without this? What would it be without the presence of the guru in our life? Because this material existing is hard. We're always suffering. It's a burning sensation. We are never going to be happy. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, it's from the highest planet, even from the place where the Brahma is, till the lowest region, everyone is suffering from repeated birth and death. Punaravtani Arjuna, Mamupetya tu Kontya Punarjanmana Vidyate. Only one who attains Krishna's abode will they never take birth again. But who's the one who's telling us about Krishna? Who's the one who's telling us about the material world in which we are suffering? We don't even know actually that we are suffering unless and until the guru tells us that yes, we are suffering. We've become so like hardened by this material world. So much of our senses have become so numb that we don't even know that we are suffering. And someone who's outside the suffering is the only one who can tell us, and that person is the guru. He's the one who's taking us beyond this birth and death. He's the one who's giving us this rain cloud, this outpouring of mercy. And the guru himself is getting it from Krishna. And the teacher, the guru and the acharya needs to know this also. That is what a real acharya is. He knows that he is just he's a link, he's getting it. He's the link who's getting the power from the powerhouse. The real original powerhouse is Krishna, but the guru is like the power point, or the power line who's supplying the power, the energy to us, because of which we can know what we are supposed to know about who we are, why we are suffering. And this connection is actually taking place through hearing. And the main way of obtaining the knowledge, the mercy from the guru is by hearing, receiving it, and assimilating it and then applying it in our lives. And how are we even supposed, like everything is so nicely explained in the scriptures. Tadvidhi pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya. How are we supposed to even ask questions? That is also mentioned in the scriptures. We are supposed to ask questions in a humble, in a submissive way, not in a challenging way. Yes, initially there may be some doubts about, if this is before you choose a spiritual master, there may be some doubts in your mind. Is this the right person for me? And yes, there could be some challenges, some doubts at that time. But once you have accepted someone as a spiritual master, like in this case, Krishna and Balaram have accepted fully, wholly, totally Sandipani Muni as their spiritual master. And that is why they are so respectful towards him. It's mentioned that they respected him on the level of the Supreme Lord. The Guru is not the Supreme Lord. The Guru is the via medium to approach the Supreme Lord, but the respect that the disciple gives to the Guru is supposed to be on the same level as that we give to Krishna. So we have been supposed to ask questions in such a humble and respectful way to our Guru. And it's not just that we're just asking questions and receiving knowledge. No, it has to be accompanied by Pariprashnena Sevaya. We have to even serve the Guru. And how do we serve the Guru? By following his instructions. Like I personally, have heard this, that yes, and it's a true thing. Yes, initiation is a very um, important step in any person's life. But initiation is, as the word says, it's the initial thing. The Guru is seeing some qualification in you and he's giving you the mercy. The remaining bulk of the work is something that we have to do by following his instructions. And even Krishna Balram do that, because this is such an essential thing that is to be followed. They clearly followed all his instructions, all of Sandipani Muni's instructions. And that is why he gave whatever knowledge he had with him, he just gave it to them. He gave them the knowledge of the Vedas, all the corollaries, the Upanishads. He gave them all knowledge that they required to learn. He gave them even knowledge of 64 hours, like some of the 64 hours that are going to be discussed. You'll think that, oh my God, why do we even need this? We might not need it. Like, they're beautiful, all of them, the 64 arts. And he gave all that knowledge to them nonetheless. And this is because these are like life skills, which it's knowledge, which will always help us. And it's good to know some knowledge, even though we may use it, or we may not use it, but it's just good to know some things. So Sandipani Muni was so happy. He gave all his wealth of knowledge because of the submissive behavior of Krishna Balram and because of their service attitude to them. So, and we see that Krishna and Balram, they did this happily. It's not that they did it in a grudging way, that, oh yes, I'm supposed to serve, so I'm supposed to follow. Yes, initially following the instructions of your Guru might be a very difficult thing. And no doubt, like just doing 16 rounds in itself can sometimes be a challenge, in today's hectic day-to-day life. To that, following the regulative principles, to that, getting up early in the morning, to that, reading Bhagavatam every day, to that, hearing and, associating with devotees, in genuine, just being a proper Krishna conscious devotee in itself is like a huge, huge thing in today's day and age. But then it has to happen with time. It has to happen genuinely from your heart. You should want to serve your Guru. And this can only happen when we actually realize the position or the role that the Guru has played in your life. How lost would we be without Prabhupada? How lost would we be without our own Gurus coming in our life? And I'm not just talking about our Diksha Gurus, but also our Shiksha Gurus also, whoever is helping us, instructing us in our spiritual lives day to day. I can personally relate one instance in my own life, that when I went to Mayapur for the first time in 2014, and I was already in I was already well into ISKCON at that time. But when I went to Mayapur, I was a bit for the first time I was a bit lost. I like Mayapur. I like the rustic feel of it and everything. Um, and everything was really nice, but there was something that was missing. Somehow I just couldn't relate to the place as how I had thought I would. I couldn't relate to the dham. I couldn't understand its potency, and I wasn't able to connect so well to Panch Tattva or to Radha Madhav at that time. And I was a little disappointed, and I came back to Bombay. And then the next year, I heard this whole lecture series by my guru, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. I heard a whole series on God Leela by him, and I must say something within me really did change after that. Somehow my appreciation for Lord Chaitanya increased. I can't say increase manifold. It's really not as much as I hope it would have been. But definitely I understood Mahaprabhu a little bit more than what I did initially. I understood his mood, his associates, and the different Leela Sthalis about which I just heard. I'm like, yeah, I'd been to this place at that time, but I didn't appreciate it at that time. But now when I heard it from my guru, it made so much more sense. And the next time when I went to Mayapur, it was a complete different experience. And that's what I'm so grateful to my guru for, because he has somehow connected me to the parampara. He has connected me to Srila Prabhupada, and I'm so grateful to him. And yes, we'll be observing his appearance day as per Tithi in a few days' time. So I don't know, this just suddenly came out. But this is what the guru does in your life. He changes you, and that change has to come. I don't know if I have a connection with my guru in some past life or not, like how some devotees say, and yes, it must be true for them. I don't know if it's true for me, but it doesn't matter whether I have known him for how many years or something. The fact is that I want to know him now, and I want to follow him now. I want to follow his instructions. And that is something I need to keep asking myself every day. Am I following his instructions? Am I being the disciple he wants me to be? Am I being the disciple? Am I being the devotee that Prabhupada wants me to be? Am I following the instructions of my Shiksha gurus? Am I genuinely being a good devotee? This is the change that the guru can bring about in your life. This is what a teacher or a guru is supposed to do. They genuinely would want you to become the best of yourselves. So so these verses are very appropriate, and they are very, very important in um, not just for a spiritual seeker, but even for a materialist also, because this applies to them also. So I'm very grateful that I could speak a little bit about this, and I hope that I always remain a student. Um, I'm always willing to learn new things from my guru, from my fellow devotees, from my Shiksha gurus, and even from people in general, something good in them that will help me grow more as an individual, and even so more as a devotee who's wanting to ultimately go back to Krishna. I hope that I always seek knowledge, and knowledge that is purifying, ultimately leading me again to the lotus feet of Prabhupada, to the lotus feet of my Gurudev, to the lotus feet of Krishna. And I hope that we all meet teachers. Most of you all have, some of you might be seeking, some of you all have not yet started seeking, but for the ones who already who know, who have a guru, it's a different feeling, having that sense of belonging, that sense of protection that we get from our guru. We just know he's there for you. And that is why it becomes all the more imperative for us on our side to follow his instructions. So and even we are also teachers, because yes, as devotees, the world is also looking at us for guidance spiritually. Our every action is often scrutinized and analyzed, that yes, this is what a devotee is. So we are also teachers in our own rights. So yes, let's pray to our gurus, our all respective gurus, who are doing amazing work in preaching the mission of Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya's mission, to Srila Prabhupada, and to the original Adi Gurus, Krishna and Balram themselves, so that we can follow in their path, be as good disciples as them and good teachers also as them, following their instructions. So thank you very much. I will end the class here. I'm open for any questions, corrections, if any.
Thank you, Nandini, Radhika. Wonderful class, very inspiring. I was thinking of my guru, and I just recently thought, what if Prabhupada was told about what I'm doing, what projects I'm doing? I was like, please, Krishna. I was really, really terrified at the thought. Damodar Priya, you have your hand up.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Nandini, Radhika. Thank you so much for the class. You reminded me, I had once read, the series that Indrayumna Swami wrote, of like a diary of a traveling monk, I believe. And you reminded me of one time he wrote in there how he would often encourage either his disciples or other people to imagine that like how would they do japa if like Prabhupada was next to them when they were doing japa, like how would that change, and just also like imagining if what would our homes look like if we thought of Prabhupada is coming into our homes every day, you know, and just to make them more accessible, because I guess like the idea of having Krishna come into your home is a little bit like it's even more intimidating, but just like of somebody that they could think of, or because he would see that when he would go visit his disciples, how like everything would get cleaned up or things would get organized, or they would put away like the movies that they weren't supposed to be watching and things like that. So just kind of thinking in that way, I just thought to share that. And I really liked your example about how you really loved history because you had history teachers that really inspired that in you. And I could see how much your Guru Maharaj has inspired you, and like you just got really, really enlivened and energized when you were talking about him. And I was just wondering, is there like a particular either story of his or an interaction that you had that was really inspiring that you could share with us? I just think like sometimes those personal things can be really touching and kind of like inspire us as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damodar Priya Devi. I haven't had as many interactions with my guru. My main interaction with him is through Vani, which I think is really the most important thing. It's always kept me humble. I think one of the most thing that I remember so much about Maharaj is that when I met him in 2021 in New York, and I told him about the passing away of my mother, he was extremely sensitive about it. And the first things he said that yes, a mother's place is irreplaceable. That was actually what he said. Because yes, and I was extremely close with my mother, and losing her was like losing a part of me, like so I think one of the things that I've always appreciated about Maharaj is that he's extremely sensitive, uh, about what a person is saying, what a person is feeling. And that's something I really appreciate in him, something that I feel sometimes I lack. And that's why I really look up to him for that. And I see that in a lot of my senior god brothers also, that yes, they have learned this thing from their guru. And yes, it also happened to be on my mother passed away on his appearance day, as per the English calendar. So it kind of like made a little bit more strong connection with my guru. So I guess maybe that's why that day holds even more importance for me, that yes, I know that my mother is taken care of because of my guru's presence in my life, because of Srila Prabhupada's, and through him, because of Srila Prabhupada's presence in my life. Because my mother was always very respectful towards Srila Prabhupada. She loved reading Prabhupada's books, and she was reading Bhagavatam. So it kind of like, made like a full circle at the end of the day, that yes, my mother's in good hands. As a soul, she's taken care of by my guru's grace, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, by the grace of all the people who have inspired me, not just my own guru, but even my Shiksha gurus. Like, I know she was also very appreciative of His Holiness Jai Pataka Swami Maharaj and Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, two very important Shiksha gurus in my own life, from whom I've learned a lot. So yeah, this is one thing that I hold very close and sacred to my heart. So thank you. Yes, Jamuna Jai.
Hare Krishna. It's just quickly also typing into the chat box what you were just saying. I just feel there is such a full circle, and you were saying how beautifully about your mother. And remember, your mother is also benefiting by your good efforts and your exemplary practice on the altar and to Radha Mulidhar and Gaurachandra. So I was just really moved by what you were saying, so close to your mother and this wonderful connection. And because that's one of the things I was reflecting on this whole pastime, is we saw the wonderful way in which Krishna honored his parents, and then we go on to the teacher. So I was sort of tracking that on my own, because that's something that I'm very blessed. My mother still does walk this earth. I spent all day with her yesterday. And it's always a reminder that how fortunate I am. And then, and I wanted to say also, you just came alive when talking about your guru. It was just, I've seen you give class many times. It was the most vibrant in context. So as Adipurusha says, surely Guru Dev is empowering you. And then one more other thing is just a funny thing when you were talking about that we were all examples. When I was dancing full time, I was a chorus girl, so we we're always like hanging around the back during rehearsal, and the stars are singing, and sometimes you goof off during rehearsal, you're talking. And
what was the biggest star you danced with?
The biggest star I danced with, a woman named Barbara Eden. She was like a TV star back in the day, and then also this other TV star, Lonnie Anderson. But anyway, I was in the back, and after rehearsal, the choreographer called all this up, and she goes, "You got to remember, when you're on that stage, someone is looking at you." And I always think that we're, especially as devotees, someone is looking at us. So I just love that point. So thank you for class. And I wish I had met your mama.
Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. One time, Srila Prabhupada was to visit a temple, and the devotees were cleaning like crazy. And they just dumped everything into the garbage room. They made it look clean, but everything got dumped. And then Srila Prabhupada comes, and the first thing he does, he goes straight to that garbage room and sees everything that has been dumped there. So this illustrates the point how merciful is the Guru, that he goes to the darkest places, picks us up, and lifts us up from those dark places. So how wonderful is Guru, that he's bringing us to Krishna, he's picking us up. Just little 5 cents. Thank you, Nandini Radhika. Very inspiring to see you to hear you glorifying your Guru. That's such a therapy.
And also just for us to remember, speaking of your mother, that they say that the mother is the first guru, right? So I think it's so beautiful what you shared about your mother leaving her body, coinciding with your guru's appearance day. It's almost like she was passing you on, right? So she was your first guru, and she was like, okay, here, now you can take care of her and show her the way, because your mother lighted the way until that point. So I think that's so, so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, even as we go on our spiritual path, we realize that so many of our near and dear ones are also inspiring us. People who we generally take for granted, like family or other close friends, but we are what we are right now in our standing in our material spiritual lives, largely because of their blessings, their guidance, their help. At times when no one helped us, it was just them. So yes, it's always good to have that feeling of gratitude towards the gurus who come in our life in different forms. Yes. So it's 8 o'clock, and I think maybe the launch might burn at any moment.
Yeah, darshan time is coming. So after this class, we request everybody to call their parents and the loved ones and tell them 2 things: how wonderful is Krishna and how much we love them. This is home assignment from Nandini Radhika. Adipurusha Prabhu, how is the darshan going? Getting late? Would you like to speak? You have to unmute yourself.
Maybe in the conscious blow.
Afterglow. Okay, cool. All right, this was the class. Nandini Radhika ki jai. Okay, turn on your cameras, and if you can, and let's stay for afterglow if you can. I have a small correction here. The biggest star Jamunajaya has ever danced for is Krishna. Okay. It's the afterglow. Adipusha Prabhu, if you want to speak, unmute yourself.
Fantastic class, just brilliant. Prabhupada told us that there's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that we might accumulate in the Gurukul. And it says that the brahmachari, the spiritual student, lives in the house of the spiritual master only for the sake of the spiritual master's mission. And that really, what we really learn there is to be a servant, to just focus on what does my guru want, how can I please my guru. And I was listening to two of my older god sisters, and when I was at New Vrindavan, Devi Swami gave me some devotees I'm supposed to serve as their counselor. So one of my counselors was this brahmacharini, and I was talking with her, and two of my older god sisters were there. So they said she was at the stage of trying to figure out a husband, and I heard them say to her, pick somebody who is a brahmachari, because then he's already learned to be obedient. Because it's not easy to train a husband. Because that's what we learn. Yes, Prabhu, how can I serve you? Does this please you? So that's the important lesson, you know. But it was hilarious to hear these two older... Now listen, you pick a husband who's a brahmachari because he's already learned to be obedient, because it's not easy to train a husband. So, you know, we want to learn that. And there's one story, I don't know, this is Saturday so we can trail out a little bit, of Mr. Schmidt. He was a Pennsylvania Dutch, you know, they have the Quakers, whatever they are, the Amish, you know. And so they have all homeschooling, you know, in Pennsylvania. They don't send their kids to the normal school. But then the community expanded and expanded, and he got some land in Ohio. So he was living in Ohio, and the truant officer, you know what truant officer is? The school official came to his house and said, Mr. Schmidt, you have a son who is 7 years old. In September, he must go to school. We don't have homeschooling in Ohio. So Mr. Schmidt said to the truant officer, well, does the school teach my son to love God with all his heart and all his soul and all his mind and all his strength? So the truant, no, we don't teach religion in school. We don't teach him about God, service to God, no. And Mr. Schmidt said, then my son will not go to that school. He said, Mr. Schmidt, if you don't send your son to school, we will have to bring you to court. So they brought him to court because he didn't send his son. And the judge said, Mr. Schmidt, now you have a court order, your son must go to the school. So he said, no, Judge, he will not. He said, Mr. Schmidt, if your son does not go to the school, you will go to jail. This is a court order. It's against the law. So he didn't send his son to school, so they put him in jail. And they said to him, Mr. Schmidt, what good is you doing your son in jail? He said, my son will know that I went to jail rather than send him to school where they don't teach him to love and serve God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and strength. And if he learns that my father believed that so strongly that he would go to jail, then I've done the perfect father business. To love God and serve God with all your heart and all your soul. That's the thing to learn. That's what you want to do in your life, you know. So he went to jail, and then they said, now Mr. Schmidt, send your son to school. He said, no, there's Mr. Schmidt, if you don't send your son to school, your wife will go to jail. He said, okay, so they put the wife in jail. And then it went all the way to the Supreme Court in Ohio, and the judge ruled, this man has a religious conviction, and we will stand behind his freedom of choice to educate his son in a place where he will hear that the goal of life is to love God with all his heart and all his soul. And he may follow it, he may not, but at least he wants to tell that to his son as the primary principle of education. And no matter what other information or skills you learn in school, if you don't learn that, your education is useless. Kind of an interesting story. Maybe I'm talking too long. Anyway, if your daughter wants to get a husband, tell her, get a brahmachari, because they're going to change to be not easy to train a husband. Well, glory to Prabhupada, Krishna.
Thank you, Adipusha. Yeah, that's not easy. All glories to the spouses who are training us up, bringing us up.
A t-shirt that says husband in training.
What's that?
I'm going to get you a t-shirt that says husband in training.
Oh, yeah.
You get a train. These girls are amazing.
Yeah. In training for forever.
Better half. All glory to Prabhupada.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. Okay, would anyone else like to say anything before we wrap it up? Okay. Nandini, Radhika, wonderful class.
Wonderful class.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was great speaking a little bit about a subject matter which is also very close to my heart because I really like teaching in general. So these are things which often frustrate me about how the system is going on today. And yeah, we should all try our best in our own ways to bring about the changes we want to. So thank you, everyone. Granthiraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Sundaranandaji has given us thumbs up. Thank you, Sundar.